Good morning. Today we are going to do and learn about Ramsar sites and their conventions in India. So, what is why Ramsar site I'm talking about? So, what is it? The Ramsar Convention on wetland of international importance, especially as of waterfowl habitat in an international treaty of a convention, and it is in a sustainable use of wetlands. So it is also known as the Conventions on Wetlands. So it is the name after the city of Ramsar in Iran. Okay. Now, there were conventions which was signed. This convention was signed in 1971. Okay, so let's start the. So let's first understand what is wetland. Okay, what is wetland? What is wetland ecosystem? What are the various types of wetlands? Okay, and again, what are the various flora, fauna which are uh, you know uh, dependent on wetlands, okay, and why it is important. So the aspects that we are going to discuss is the wetlands, type of wetlands, hydrological conditions, biological functions, and sites of specific conditions. Now, Earth's surface has uneven topography. The elevation and depression forms a wide varieties of landscapes and ecosystem. Topography, like water available and climatic conditions, control almost all ecosystem in the world. Among all terrestrial ecosystem like mountain, desert, and forest, we have yet another ecosystem to be studied, that is the wetland ecosystem. Okay. As the name implies, there are wetlands such as which exist along the borders of the water courses and water bodies. So in topographical low-lying, it is a basically topographically low-lying area, and wetlands are the interface between land and the water body. So some good watershed may all have large undeveloped wetlands that stores the flood water and helps a lot of flora and fauna to survive over it. So once upon a time, these wetlands were considered as wastelands. Okay, because they were nothing economical activity that could be done over it. So that's why it was known as wasteland. So gradually, due to urbanization, most of them are getting converted into urban sectors and agriculture or industrial lands. Recently, their importance are as highly productive ecosystem it has developed as being recognized by people in several countries. Now degrading wetlands are also are to be restored, and hence it is necessary to understand the environmental conditions of wetlands. Taking an overview of wetlands are defined as land and low-lying plains dominated by hydraulic soil, inundated or saturated by surface water or groundwater, and prompting only hydrophic vegetation. So these zones are found between drylands and waterlogged zones along the edge of the stream, river, lakes, and coastlines. Wetlands are integral part of watershed, and their position in the landscape is influenced by the influence the characteristics of a watershed. So the wetland are characterized by various factors like topographical lowland, uh, uh, that is permanent inundation, hydraulic soil, then you have reducing environment, that is absence of free oxygen within the soil profile. uh, Hydrophytes vegetation also also found at shallow and deep waters. So wetlands can function as a nutrient sink, that is temporary water storage areas and groundwater recharge areas. So it is critical for wildlife habitat, natural and anthropogenic use and activities within a watershed influencing the functions of natural wetlands. Okay, just hold on. Yeah. So hydrophyte vegetation at shallow and deep waters like this wetland functions, being wetland functions, that is, it provides a nutrient sink. It acts as a temporary water storage area. It acts as a groundwater recharge area, and it is very critically important for wildlife habitat. So natural as well as anthropogenic activities within the watershed influences the functions of natural wetlands. Like for example, by changing hydrology of a wetland, the wetland retention and sediments annotations function can be lost. Okay, so like we say, wetland retention and sediment can change because of high increase in sedimentation, and it can change altogether, resulting in downstream hydrological and water quality impact. So or vegetative species and composition within the surrounding wetland might also change, resulting in habitat quality change. So topologically, they are saucer or bowl shape depression, and the surface area will change as water is added through rainwater runoff or lost due to evaporation, and plant transpiration and deep seepage, like deep seepage as in it becomes part of the groundwater. So this saucer shape feature tends to be a temporary and seasonal, with large area uh, exposed as water is lost. So like wading birds are predominantly habitating in these areas. Their habitats are wading birds. Wading birds means birds which wades into water for their food and shelter. Like when they are hunting, they stand in the water and they look for fish and crustaceans to eat, like a water crane, flamingos, uh, ducks, goose. They are all wading butts, cranes. They are wading birds which are dependent on these uh, wetlands. Now, ball-shaped features tend to semi-permanent or permanent, with smaller exposed areas with water is lost, but provide a long-term water to support bird species and amphibians. Wetlands are inundated or are saturated within major portions of the root zones. So usually within 12 inches of the surface during the growing season. Now, the prolonged presence of water creates condition that favors the growth of specially adapted plants called hydrophytes, and promotes or prompts the development of characteristics in wetland soil called hydric soil. Now, these wetland can be found in nearly every country and all climatic conditions and zones. Some are wet off all the time, and some may appear on a duration, like after the rainy spells. Now, the type of wetlands. So all wetlands are not alike. So if, they are varying depending upon the location and watershed. So and also with the reference to their abiotic factors, like different characteristics like hydraulic, water, chemistry and biological functions, vegetation sites, specific factors like climate and geology of region, landscape positions and soil, create more type of wetlands. The factors are not independent, but forms a complex interrelationship to make each other type of unique at once. So, based on the physical, geomorphic conditions, chemical and biological characteristics, wetlands are classified into various types. Like in general, two major categories of wetlands are recognized, like inland wetlands, that is coastal wetlands. For inland wetlands, again are divided in several types. Then we have coastal wetlands, that is inland wetlands are non-tidal environmental, and coastal wetlands may have a tidal influence. Okay, so inland wetlands include inland freshwater marshes, peatland, deep water marshes, and riparian wetlands. Now, inland water marshes are like basically by the rivers. All the major rivers heights you will have inland water or marshes. You know, freshwater marshes. Deep water marshes, they look like this. I know, where you have tall trees under which there's a large amount of water which is standing. You can come across these types of wetlands in Amazon forests. Amazon forest, when there is a heavy rainfall, they get deep water inundation around along the Amazon river, and they form a deep water swamp areas. Riparian wetlands are basically on change in the slope regions or the hilly terrain, where the slope is high and it is, and there the slope is an undulating change in it. Wherever there is a depressed land feature, the and water collects here, and that calls a riparian wetland. Okay, so this is a riparian wetland. Okay. uh, as because the water is flowing from upstream here, it is flowing from upstream here and it is collecting here. It is also becoming part of the underground water, and also contributing to the floodplain or watershed region, like a river it is coming up. So that becomes riparian wetlands. Now, coastal wetlands include tidal salt marshes, tidal fresh marshes, mangrove wetlands. Okay, so inland wetlands are most common, basically like on floodplains along the rivers and streams. and also in the isolated depressions surrounded by dry lands. So isolated depressions will collect rainwater more often than areas which are having a rivers. No, tidal saltwater marshes, like this is an image which shows a tidal saltwater marshes. This is a normal low tide zone region where water is inundating. This is a normal high tide region where water can come and become a high tide zone, and this is a exceptionally high tide zones where it gets inundated due to storm surges. So in these region, these soils are highly moistured. It looks like this. So if you see on the horizon, you will see that this ocean is very far off, but there are water holes here, and these are salt water holes, and there are small crustaceans and wading birds who survive over it. Even small reptiles and amphibians who are living in these water holes. Okay. Now, mangrove wetlands. Again, mangrove wetlands is on the interjunction of where the mouth of the river is. So it can be a deltatic or estuary wetlands, and they have mangrove forest or mangrove trees which are capable of surviving standing high standing water, and also capable of living in salt water as well as in fresh water. So the tidal, then we have tidal freshwater marshlands. What happens in tidal freshwater marshland is that when river swells and it spills over the floodplain areas, the depression fills up with because of the flooding, and those areas remain as a wetland. Or sometimes river also faces a backwater or back wave, which can result into tidal flooding of river, and can again recharge the wetlands in those areas. So they are found along the margins of the lakes, ponds, and other low-lying areas where groundwater intercepts the soil surface, or where the precipitation is more to saturate the soil always. So inland wetland include marshes and wet meadows dominated by herbaceous plants, which is what do you call, um, small shrubs and bushes like swamp. And then we have swamps which are again dominated by shrubs. Wood swamps are dominated by tall trees which can withstand high saturation of water. And then there are areas which are characterized by sluggish or standing water and can create an open water habitat for some wildlife. So the coastal wetlands are areas bordering the coastlines, and they are closely linked to some estuaries where seawater mixes with the fresh water bodies to form an environment of a varying salinity. The salt water and the fluctuation of the water level combines to create a rather difficult environment for most plants to survive. However, many shallow coastal areas are unvegetated and mud flat sand flat regions, but there are certain vegetations that can withstand these conditions. So the crowding classification system used as a salinity creation of zero point 0.5 part per million part, and ocean driven salinity to differentiate between the estuary and freshwater wetlands. Now, the difference in the salinity will be reflected in the species composition of the plant and the animals. Though the wetlands are further divided in different types based on the soil type and plant life, they are like bogs and fens and swamps and marshes. So bog is an acidic peatland region. Bogs are freshwater wetlands, often formed in old glacial lakes. characterized by spongy peat deposits, evergreen trees and shrubs, and a floor covered by a thick carpet of for mosses. And then we have fen. Fen contributes to uh, fresh peatland with chemically basic in nature, that is it is roughly means alkaline in nature. And the groundwater, it also recharges the groundwater, but the means that is it contains a moderate to high proportion of hydroxic ions in it. So the pH value is very high, like it is almost as close to 7. Okay, now fen are covered mostly by grasses, sage, reeds, and wildflowers. Fresh water marshes. Main feature is the openness, while only low-lying or emerging plants are only there. And it may include grasses, rushes, and reeds and fights and sages in growing in these regions. Low-lying plants which grows in the coastal salt marshes be associated with estuaries along with waterways, between coastal barriers, island, and the inner coast. And the plant may extend from reed in middle brackish water to synchroria and other bare marine mudland areas. Swamps in wetlands are more open water surface and deeper water than the marshes. In some countries, it is dominated by trees, wooded bushes, and rather than grasses and low herbs. Like in Africa, swamps may be dominated by papyrus grasses. Okay, and mangrove swamps, that is mangle, is a salt or a brackish water environment dominated by mangrove species of trees, which for example sundari trees. Okay, now intertidal wetlands provide an excellent example of invasion, modification, and succession. Okay, so the let's not go into deep into succession now. Tidal wetlands are further classified into subtidal, inter regular exposed uh, tidal areas. Then you have regular floodplains. Okay, then irregular floodplains and intertidal wetlands, that is predominantly flooded and water covers and the land surface throughout the year. In all the year vegetation, it is composed of oblique hydrophytes in these regions. The intermediate exposed lands which surface water is present throughout the year except in the year of extreme drought conditions. The semi-permanent flooded surfaces water persists throughout the growing season in most years, and when the surface water is absent, the water table is usually at or very near the land surface. Okay, the seasonal flooded, surface water is present in extended period, especially early in growing season, but is absent by the end of the season in most years. But the surface water is absent and the water table is often near the land surface. So then we have saturated, is again fully saturated up to the surface during the growing season, but no surface water is seen in the dry seasons. Temporary floodplains are again, just hold on. Yeah. So temporary floodplains are again, surface water is present in a brief period during growing season, but the water table usually lies well below the soil surface for the most of the season. The intermediate flooded areas, like it is substructed, is usually exposed, but the surface water is present for variable period without detectable seasonal periodicity, and week, month, or even the year may intervene between the period of inundation. The dominant plant community under this regime may change with reference to the change in the soil moisture. Then artificial flooded is the amount and the duration of the flooding are controlled by the means of pumping and combination with dikes and dams in the region. So vegetation present cannot be considered as a reliable indicators of the water regime in these region. Then we come to a part where Ramsar sites and other conventions in conservations which has been taken in India. So a Ramsar convention is a inter governmental treaty that provides the framework for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. The conservation was adopted uh, on 2nd February in 1971 in Namsar, that is in Iran. The convention came in force on 21st December 1975. Presently, there are 170 countries containing these parties, with about 2,326 wetland sites covering total area of about more than 2 billion hectare of the earth surfaces. Okay, so that is million hectare square kilometer. Okay, now the objective of the conventions of wetland are distinct basically the wetlands are distinct ecosystem inundated by water permanently or seasonally, or treasuring a wide range of plants and animals over it. Okay, so the convention aims on conserving the wetlands with the objectives like maintaining and sustainable use of Ramsar wetlands. So, designation of wetlands for inclusion in the list of wetlands of international importance. So, the promotion of international cooperation with regard to transboundary wetlands, shared water system, and shared species. Okay, so just hold on. Yeah. The objective of the convention is to, a wetland is to distinct ecosystem that has been identified, and using and maintaining the sustainable use of Ramsar wetland, with promotion of international cooperation with regard to transboundary wetlands and share water system, and share the species. So the convention is aiming to conserving the wetlands with the objective of maintaining maintenance and sustainable use of Ramsar wetlands, that is of globally, which is distributed, designating wetlands for inclusion in the list of wetlands of the international importance, then also promoting the international cooperation with regard to transboundary wetlands and share water system and share the species. Okay. Now, organizing body of the convention. So the convention of the contacting parties were, about 170 countries were participating, parties were there. Standing committee resolution that was taken up for, by Canada, and also scientific technical review panel was there, and communication, education, participation and awareness programs were instated. Then you have resolution again taken up in 93, and a resolution in taken up in 2015 in Uruguay, uh, that gave, under the secretary based on the headquarters of IUCN at Gland, that is in Switzerland. It provided monetary support to the committee. It provided, the list of wetlands of international importance, make inclusions and exclusions in the list of the wetlands, publish the decisions and resolution and recommendation for the conference that has taken place. It also developed the cooperation with other conventions, intergovernment institution and national and international NGOs working on it. Then, to assist the recruitment of new contacting parties are also taken in consideration, and organizing the conference for the contacting parties are also taken up. So the partnership of the conventions is like, global conventions. Here it was the biological diversity, the conventions of the biological diversity, the convention of international trade in endangered species of the wild flora and fauna, World Heritage Convention, United Nation conventions on the law of navigational use of international water courses, the Convention on Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Resource and International Lakes. Then you have international organization partners, that is BirdLife International, International Union of Conventions of Nature and Natural Resources, Wetland International, then Worldwide Fund for Nature, uh, and then you have private sectors, that the donating groups also. And this is the symbol, or this is the monogram of Ramsar conventions or Ramsar sites. Now, designation of Ramsar sites. There are criteria: one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 criteria. So, number one criteria contains the representative of rare and unique examples of natural or near, natural wetlands with type which is found appropriate for biographic regions. Then criteria 2 covers the wetland most supported by vulnerable, endangered or critical endangered species, or threatened ecological community. Then you have criteria 3, that is wetland must support population of plants and animal species important to maintain the biodiversity of a particular biographic region. Then criteria 4 completes wetlands most supported plants or animal species at critical stage in their life cycle. or provide refuge during the adverse conditions. The wetland must support 20,000 or more water birds. Then wetland must regularly support about 1% of the individual in a population of one species or subspecies of the water birds. Then again, criteria 7 is wetland must support a significant proportion of indigenous fish species. Then you have wetland that must, criteria 8 is that wetland must be an important source of food for fish, swamping ground, and also nursery. So then criteria 9 is like, wetland must have 1% of individual in a population of one species of wetland, depending on non avial animal species. Now, Ramsar classification of wetlands like marine wetlands, inland wetlands, and man-made wetlands. Marine wetlands have again saline water wetlands and brackish water wetlands. Inland wetlands, you have freshwater wetlands and brackish water wetlands. Then you have man-made wetlands, which is pond, that is seasonally flooded agricultural land, are man-made wetlands. Now, then again you have following waters like rivers, springs, and streams also create wetlands. Okay. And permanent or seasonal wetlands like lakes and marshes are coming from the inland and coastal wetlands. This is a inner image of global distribution of Ramsar sites around the world. Now, if you see, there is quite a lot of wetlands here. In Africa there are about 23 sites. In Asia there are 332 sites. Then in Europe there are 1052 sites. Latin America 113 sites. North America 381 sites. Australia 66, and Oceania 10. Okay. And in area also it is describe how much area it is covering. So maximum area which has been covered by wetland is in Europe. Ramsar sites in India. Now you have 26 sites in India, covering in total area of about 6,9,101 hectare. Okay. And the Ramsar Convention in India may come in force on 1st February in 1982. So you have wetland, dam lake, Kamdu lake, then you have Roper wetland, then you have Sambar lake, uh, then you have Mansarovar lake, and there are so many examples of wetlands there in our country. The lake, that is Odisha. There are many in Kerala. There are very many in Odisha. There are two in Odisha. You can see here. That is, one is Chilka Lake. That is a coastal brackish water wetland. Then you have Mangrove. This is also coastal saltwater wetland, and you know Kanika is mangrove forest in Odisha, is also salt brackish water wetlands. Then you have Assam, West Bengal, Punjab, that is Harikipatan region, is also a wetland. Then you have in Jammu and Kashmir, you have Hokareya wetland, Kanjli wetlands in Punjab. Rajasthan has Kelodio National Park. Then again Bharatpur National Park. Then Andhra Pradesh, Manipur, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Himachal Pradesh has two. Then again, Sambhar Lake. Again in Rajasthan, Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir has several. Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Tripura, Jammu and Kashmir, and many more. So, how do we manage wetlands? Managing wetlands is like maintaining and enforcing the Montauk's record to assess any change in ecological character of Ramsar sites. Use of wetlands for sustainable agriculture and fishing. Also, have a management practice taken in wetlands. Then you have spreading knowledge among the people regarding the importance and maintenance of the wetlands of that region. Then again, spreading awareness regarding the depletion and the conservation process of the wetlands. We can also take up dredging, where sedimentation has taken, so we can take up dredging and recreating and reconserving the wetland regions of the country. And this is all about wetlands and Ramsar sites and the country. Have a nice day, and we'll again see you for the next lecture.